Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey.
Marshall, good morning to you.
Good morning, good sir.
Great to be revisiting our this has got to be the longest series we've ever done, the most number of episodes, and we're finally wrapping it up today.
Yes, and it's appropriate that we're wrapping it up when it comes to the wrapping it up of the crucial conversation.
That's exactly right.
So yeah, there was opposing views, high stakes, strong emotions. We prepped for like 17 years for the conversation. We had this great conversation using our state model. And there was some silence, violence. We successfully navigated all that. And now we're at the point where we should probably do something.
That's right. That's right. We had this huge stimulating conversation, and it needs to go somewhere, or it's going to be worse off than it was at the start, right? The book makes the point that this conversation is so dicey because it can go off the rails right at the beginning or right at the end, because you have this great talk and then nothing happens, or somebody feels forced into something happening. And either way, that's not what we were trying to achieve. All the way through, the idea was that we get this shared pool of meaning. We both contribute to this conversation, our side of what's going on and our perspective, and we mutually come up with something that works for all parties involved. So we should now do that. Like, what is it that we're going to do that's going to work, and come to that conclusion?
Oh yeah, and we know it's a struggle because sometimes that's how we make our money. So we sit and a group or a couple of people talk, and then we finally get everything out. And it's like, and then there's this, like, kind of like you said, like this relaxation of, whew, got all that out.
Yeah, that felt good.
Yeah, got all that out. That was nice. And then our job, this is where we earn the money, is we say, so what did we decide?
Yeah.
It's like, and nobody, and left to their own devices, many of the folks that we work with don't ask that question.
Yes.
And so, and then they look at you and go, yeah, what are we going to do? What did we decide?
Right.
And then you move into this next step. The author calls it move to action. You align, you've aligned the needs, right? This is what I want for you. This is what you want for me, the relationship, right? We've got all this alignment. We know what our mutual purpose is, what we want to achieve here. And now what does that first step look like? And so sometimes we've been known to ask the question, all right, so what can we do? Just what can we do? They answer a little bit, and then we use the second of the great 7 coaching questions and just say, and what else?
Yeah.
And the goal is to, let's get, if you only have one idea, then it's probably not the best. We put multiple ideas out on the table. And what else? All right, which one do we feel most favorably about? And then all of a sudden, we're going from wide series of options down to, this is what we're actually going to do.
Yeah, and you'll typically sense some energy around that, right? Like you and I will the people like us in the world are in that room like a fly on the wall, and we'll notice that there's a lot of energy around a certain solution, and they start narrowing down naturally to that. You had an interesting point before we started that the concept of SMART goals can really apply here. And we've talked about SMART goals here on the past, but talk a little bit specifically about how that applies here at the end.
Oh yeah, because you can hear this conversation. We just wrapped it up, and everybody's like, "Well, you're right. I'm going to do much better at whatever. Right, coming in on time, filling out my TPS reports, whatever it might be." And so that's not a SMART goal. I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to improve. And so SMART is an acronym for specific. Is it something that we can talk about in less general terms? Is it measurable? Mm-hmm. How will I know whether or not we're succeeding? Is there a metric You know, and I often ask that question, how are we going to, all right, so if we do this, how are we going to measure it?
Yep.
And so we've got that. Is it attainable? Sometimes, you know, like, you know, within the next year, I'm going to go from a couch slug to I'm going to run an ultra marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't seem attainable in the
Mhm.
time frame that you've outlined, given the current reality. So, so is this something that we could legitimately see someone doing, given the current workload and stresses and taking in the other
Right.
factors that are present in the environment? Something that is relevant is what we decided actually relevant to our mutual purpose.
Yeah.
And so that, and then the last one, which is my favorite, the T is for timeline. And so we know that yeah, in every football game, a whole lot happens in the fourth quarter, and a whole lot more happens at the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we don't need huddles anymore. We're making big plays, and it's because a deadline is approaching. And
Yeah.
so if it's truly a good goal, and it may not be the end goal, but it may be, okay, this is the goal to get this particular step done. And so we may map it out, not as, you know, this is when the whole, you know, thing will be solved. It would be like, okay, I want to, by this point, I want to have done X.
Yeah.
And so now I've got on the table my who does what by when, how much, what, all those good questions are answered.
Yeah, and that sort of leads into the final part of this that really has to happen if you're going to make this conversation go all the way to resolution of your problem, which is, you know, yeah, you've got who does what by when. There should be an owner of each of these tasks, an owner of each of these things that we're trying to accomplish, and they should know how to measure it and so on and have a deadline. We better get together and follow up to see if this happened. So
What follow up?
yeah, I know this is hard. This is a hard
No,
one.
we had a great conversation.
Right.
Everybody's clear on what needs to be done. I say we just move on to the next thing. I'm a busy man, got things to do.
In fact, if you talk about this again, I'm going to brush it right under the rug to make
Oh.
sure that, you know, we never have to deal with it again.
Yeah, solved it.
Done.
Yeah, for those of you in the podcast, that is the washing my hands of this problem sound. So yeah, I mean, the follow-up piece, and that's the second piece that we see most often get neglected.
Right.
You know, there's a difference between delegation and abdication.
Yeah.
You know, delegation means I'm going to still follow up, and that can be part of the move to action. What is that cadence of follow-up? Let's check in on this every Friday to see where we're at, see how we're doing, check the metrics, that type of thing, versus abdication, which is, all right, I gave that to somebody else. I'm done with it. It's their problem now.
Yeah.
And so, and maybe we agree to that, but in most of these cases, if it was truly crucial, it's probably going to require some follow-up. And the follow-up sometimes is as simple as a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Don't rule out the fact that it could go really good.
Yep.
And you just want to get back there. How's the thing going? Well, actually, we're doing 10% better than what we'd even projected. Well,
Yeah.
I think lunch is in order.
Right.
You know,
Right.
let's have some milkshakes and a crisp high five.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if HR allows it. So yeah, this is the opportunity, whether it's off the track or it just needs a little adjustment, or it just needs the sense of urgency renewed, or it's a celebration. Anyway, we need to schedule the follow-up.
I worked with a company, this has been years ago, but they had addressed a problem. The management team had addressed a process that was just off the rails, and it was affecting customer service survey numbers. And they knew it was also eating into their pockets, but they didn't really have to measure it that much. They just knew that was the case. It was the customer service scores that were the issue, right? And so they did some really hard work. An employee team put together some improvements, and the management team blessed them. They executed them, and it worked. It truly worked. The survey scores went up overnight. And periodically they would have a managers meeting, and the dealer would say, how are we doing on that new process? And it turns out that wasn't good follow-up, because the management team, the business owner said that, but the management team would say, oh yeah, I mean, we're still doing the process. That's great. But nobody looked at the survey scores. And so about, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months after a successful launch, and it did work, that recurring revisiting didn't really happen in a way to follow up and actually measure the SMART goal, right? I mean, that was the whole point. So they had to go back to the wheel and basically recreate some things that had been in place, but really had dropped off more than they realized. Well, they would have realized it immediately if there had been regular follow-up on that one particular SMART goal that they had set, instead of just a general thumbs up, everything's great, or thumbs down.
Yeah.
So it can really help you pin this down and make it effective when you really get this step: who does what by when, how are we going to follow up?
Oh yeah, yeah, and all you'd have to do in that situation is, how's the process going? That's going fantastic, great. All right, so what do the metrics look like?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're not talking about adding years to a meeting.
No.
Just talking about, just ask one more question to see if they specifically know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And the other piece of this, without follow up, we get the concept that I call evaporation. And so it's either behavior evaporation or process evaporation. And so nobody consciously decides to stop doing the thing that we agreed that we were going to do. It just slowly evaporates. And the guy who's charged with it, he gets transferred to another department, or somebody's off on vacation. When they come back, we don't do it as consistently. We do it, but now we're just doing it every other day, and then every fourth day, and then once a week. And then at some point, somebody stops and says, "Hey, what happened to that thing we all decided we agreed that we would do?"
Yeah.
And nobody can point to the specific day that they quit doing it. Because it was like a puddle. It slowly evaporated, and there was not a conscious decision to stop doing it, but nobody followed up. And so it just slowly went away until, we look around and go, "Oh man, that thing we all agreed to," and that oftentimes they go, "was working."
Right.
It was helping.
Yeah.
That thing is now, we're back to where we started.
Well, and that's exactly what the 4 disciplines of execution talks about with the term the day job. This thing that you're trying to accomplish, this new thing, this new process, whatever it is that you're trying to put into place and execute on, it's not part of the day job, and so the day job takes over, and you end up doing that instead of this new thing that has to take extra special energy and attention from you. Well, until that special thing becomes part of the day job, you're not really done yet, right? You have to keep doing the follow-up to make sure that that it continues no matter what, because it's just second nature to your team. It's part of the culture. It's part of the day job. So until we get to that place, you have to keep investigating this. And even after that, you probably might want to measure it just every now and then, right?
Yeah, because this is not the little stuff. This is the crucial stuff.
Right.
And so this was big. This was important. We put all this time and energy into this conversation. We can't let it just slide. We can't let it evaporate at this point. My favorite commitment phrase that we've talked about before is, until I hear them say, "We should have done this years ago," or "I should have done this sooner. I should have done this year," then we know that it's locked in.
Yeah.
Till I hear something of that sort, then follow-up is probably what's needed.
Well, okay. So since you said that, there's one last tip I did want to bring up, which you said the word commitment, and just a warning, to something to be prepared for.
We should put a graphic in here right now, like warning.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
Okay, I'll work on that in post-production, because we have that now, post-production.
We're very cool.
But you're going to learn about commitment when you start putting down names to actions. When you start saying, here's who's going to do what by when. Do we all agree that this is the plan? When you start having to put that in writing, it's actually going to cause you possibly to revisit many of the steps that we have already covered in this podcast. You thought you had all the shared pool of meaning, but now that it's in black and white on paper saying, okay, so you're going to do this by this date, suddenly the people who are about to be committed to something are going to say, no, wait a minute, hold on. We haven't talked about XYZ, or it might even be, I thought you meant this instead of that. And so you're going to just be patient. This is kind of like race cars, right? Slow down to go fast. You're going to have to do some things in this to make sure that you launch the right way when you're done. But it's okay. Like when this happens, the meeting hasn't blown up. It's just you finding out, oh, there's a little bit more we have to talk about here to make sure we're on the same page. So go ahead and have that conversation.
Oh yeah, no, you're 100% right. And you alluded to a key point, but you didn't say it outright. You said while you're putting it down.
Oh yeah. Right. Let's talk about a real basic tip here.
Yeah. We should write it down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether you write it on a flip chart or we write it on a piece of paper, and we both have a copy of the paper, we write it into an email and we copy everybody on it, but yeah, it needs to be written down. People's memories get fuzzy. They got a lot going on. If this was truly a crucial conversation, we've agreed on this action step. We need to write it down. Who owns it? When are they going to get it done by? What's the timeline, and how are we going to measure it?
That's it.
And so that becomes crucial. And this is a good place. You could even throw in question 6 from the 7 great coaching questions. You're saying yes to this action step. What are you going to say no to?
Yep.
You're already busy. You're doing something 100% of the time. What are you going to take off of your plate in order to add this thing?
Very fair
that we've agreed upon. So yeah, in writing, who's going to do it, by when, agreement on the steps, and maybe the final thought is just, let's not make the first step too big.
Yeah.
If it's too big, go out and revamp your process. That seems like a lot. All right, so the first step might be go out and research 2 other companies that are doing this. See how they're doing that. Then get back to me. Then we'll decide the next step.
Yep.
And so chunking it down so that the first step doesn't seem immensely insane, and even softening it with, let's try this as a pilot program.
Yeah.
Let's do this for 60 days.
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah.
And so make it smaller. Chunk it down, maybe make it a pilot, so that I can get people to lean in, give it their best effort for a set period of time. Then we can, because it's measurable, we can then determine whether or not this is truly working for us and if we want to proceed.
And if it's a pilot, you have a baked in follow-up date, right? There's going to be a point where this pilot ends and we evaluate how this went and take the next step. Great idea.
Genius.
Yeah.
Genius. I don't know how we do it.
Yeah. Read books.
Oh yeah, we read books. Yeah. We don't have any ideas of our own.
Right.
We just go out and watch other people and read books.
I can't remember the guy that said it, but it's like philosophy. Somebody said every philosopher has just been a footnote to Plato. They're all just still spinning off of his ideas.
Yeah. Well, when you first started your sentence, when you said, I can't remember when, I thought you were going to finish it with, I ever had an original thought.
Also true.
Yeah. I can't remember when I've ever had an original thought.
Hey, that's in the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun.
That's right. Yeah. Energy cannot be created or destroyed.
That's right.
It's just always here. We just keep reformatting it a little bit.
Right.
That's cool. Oh, this is excellent. Great wrap up to crucial conversations. The stickiest, toughest conversations you'll ever have in your life. And we, with the help of a wonderful book, have kind of laid it out and made it bite-sized, chunkable, and actionable.
Yeah. I am so excited for people to take advantage of this. I just emailed a client this morning who was about to have a hard conversation. I said, I'm getting a follow-up on how it went. This is happening literally daily in my coaching conversations, and I'm sure the same is true for you, Mike. So we know this is stuff people need, and we hope they take advantage of it.
Oh, definitely. And if you made it this far, you're still stuck, call us. Text us. Yeah. We'd be happy to help. We love this stuff, especially the crucial conversations, because they're so juicy.
Absolutely.
You know, just from a pure human interest standpoint,
Oh,
we want to talk.
we have a very fun time. Yeah.
Yeah, we could hear some good stuff.
Speaking of hearing good stuff,
Our announcer, Mr. Wolf.
And that's it. Join us next time when you'll hear Mike say, well, I'm sure he'll say something pithy. Don't miss it. Next time, it doesn't take a genius.
that's good enough.